or shit like that.
All right, we're here with another episode of the Rock Fantasy Files. This is one I put together. We don't have any of our regulars on for say other than Steve Levin, and Andrew Freeman's back on. It's been on the show a lot. We got a lot of first timers tonight. We got Ralph Tamborra, who I'm calling him our Martin Popoff, our historian of Middletown, New York. He's got every flyer. He's going to tell me shows that I don't even remember being at. Got Jim MacNaughton, a longtime friend. In fact, his father married my wife and I at Webb Horton Church back in 1982.
I didn't know that. Jesus, dude.
So you're almost family. So from Rock Fantasy, we got Steve Massey, who is in California now, grew up in the area. His uncle here is an alderman still in town, and I get to see him when he comes back to visit. And he is now going on to manage bands and is the current day-to-day manager of the Goo Goo Dolls, which is a heavy metal extreme band from the channel. But, he's going on to do some great things. We've got Mike Usifer from the mighty Primeval, who you can remember, anybody from the area were one of the bands. We tried to get Ben Circus. So a lot of guys couldn't make it tonight. So we will try to loop back in a few weeks and do a part 2 of this with some more folks from, Brad Mader was going to join us tonight. Greg Morris, we're missing, who did sound for all the clubs back then, who said he was coming. And we have Andrew Freeman here tonight. And we're just going to talk about shows from back then and Middletown, New York metal scene. Opening up my shop in '85, we had a cool and fun metal scene here in town. From the early '80s, we had clubs like that started in the '70s, like JB's Rock 3, which was known as Rumors, Fast Lane, and Dino's was downtown, which turned into the Class and the Class of '57. And how many names did the Class have? Was the Comedy Music Corner? Every year was a different name. The Powerhouse Rock. And then we had the Rock House, which was only up in about a year. We had other, and among the other spots we had in the '90s, we had Sportland Cafe, which became another place that had national acts with bands like Marilyn Manson and Biohazard and Death and Incantation. And then we had the underground clubs like the Grunge Club in Middletown, which was the classy Leathergood building, which is now Fort Knox. And we had the Militia Mansion down the block from that. So we also, at the short-lived Rock Palace, I worked there for that whole, year and a half it was open. I DJ'd like 6 nights a week. I don't know how my marriage survived because I was never home, and my wife really didn't go there. So she was into going to see bands, but not enough. She was working, and I booked bands there. We brought in bands like Creator, Coroner, Sepultura, Sacred Reich, amongst others. We hosted a Sunday hardcore matinee. I then started working at the Class after that closed up, doing a DJing job. And I actually let that job go. And Kara Sprague, that worked for me also, is now a teacher in the area, started that up. And we also had the Orange County Fair Speedway concert series in the '80s and '90s, so which we're going to do another episode on in a week or so. Here are some of the bands from that different metal genres from that time. Primeval, who we've got a member here tonight. Ben Circus, who we tried to get someone but couldn't do it. We had No Justice back then. We had Heavens to Mergitroid. We had Believer. We had Militia, of course. We had Deranged, who Rob Ortel was going to join us tonight, and Antonio Valator, who's out in California now too. They had Excommunication, Poor Excuse, Affirmative Action. Jim MacNaughton's in the house with us. All Out War, of course, the mighty Morpheus Descends, Violent Plague, Fear Within, Anti, Caffery.
Oh, yeah, Anti. Shit, yeah.
So many different bands that I'm sure I left out at least 20 of them, but at times we thought the scene was really lousy, and it was divided at times. We also thought it would last forever, but one day, poof, that whole scene, it was just gone. And now we just have memories left of the late nights and the fun times. And tonight, we're just here to chat about those days. So let's get started. I mean, anybody that wants to talk. Ralph, the historian, why don't you tell us a little bit about a couple shows you remember?
All right. Well, JB's Rock 3 you mentioned. I know you got to see Metallica there.
I did.
That was my first underground show I ever went to was summer of '84. I was only 14 years old. Pierce and Anvil played there.
I was at that show.
I was at that show too.
Me too.
I couldn't remember if it was '83 or '84. That's great.
Wow. Holy shit. I was at that show. I remember Pierce. Holy fuck, dude. That's awesome. Good. Sorry.
Pierce was easy on me. Of course, I know Anvil, but Pierce was that a local band, Pierce?
Out of Jersey.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think, right?
they had an album out. I got the cassette someplace over here, but yeah. So it was kind of funny because we got dropped off by my good friend John Cavalluzzi's dad. He drove us to the show. We had a couple of us went in there, and we're little kids, 14 years old in there. And the show was running a little late, and his dad came into the show looking for us, and we seen him come in. So we wanted to catch the last couple of songs, but we started trying to hide the crowd. And sure enough, Lips from Anvil comes out with a dildo, playing a guitar solo, right as his father comes in looking for us. Once he found us, we got yanked out of there, and we missed the last probably couple songs. But it was the only time I ever got to go to JV's Rock Rave, and I wish I would have brought Metallica there. But
That was the whole reason why I went to that show, is because like, dude, he's gonna do the encore. He's gonna use the dildo as a slide. We're like, yeah, we gotta go. We're so psyched. That was the first show I ever went to. I snuck into. I was maybe a year older than you.
What year did JB's close? Because I missed it because I was a little too young, so I never got to go there.
I think it
Keep
closed.
saying that.
I think it closed right around when I opened my shop. I remember the weekend it was closing, and they did have Alcatraz coming, and Grim Reaper was also booked to play there, and it closed and I remember it was in the summer because the Orange County Fair was going on, and I'm almost going to say it was around 85. Ralph may know more than me, but I remember like being really totally bummed out because they had a couple bands I was looking forward to see, because they really started booking more of the national acts towards that time period too.
the last show I remember it was 84, but I remember Joe Perry Project played after that show. And I knew somebody who went to that. And they thought
Joe Perry Project played there a lot when he was out of Arrow.
Yeah, really?
A lot. Like they were almost like not a house band, but I mean, talking about this club for people that aren't familiar, this club was right directly behind Orange County Fair Speedway, still is, and it now is a office building with like a medical office. My oral surgeon is in that building, so I've been in there under gas. Tell them I haven't been this screwed up since I was at the Rock Club, and then they talk about it. I was there last fall.
So you're still doing drugs on the property there.
Yeah, exactly. It's just quieter now.
Keeping it alive, dude. Keep it alive.
Just isn't as loud.
There wasn't any electric guitars. Actually, the dentist that I go there is actually very cool. He usually puts loud music on and jams out while you're getting third.
Cool. I remember that place. I saw. I might be mistaken, but I went to see Anvil, but then Anvil canceled, and then Raven filled in for them. You remember Raven?
Yeah,
of course.
Yeah, so I might not have been the same show because it was the same opening band though. Because Pierce had a black guitar player, right? African American guitar player, lefty guy.
Yeah.
Hmm? Yeah, and he was awesome. But I remember I went to see Anvil, and we got to the gig and made the announcement that they couldn't make it, and then Raven played. I had heard of them, but I never.
Okay.
I didn't go to see them.
On that one. I mean, I saw so many bands. I'm a little older than anybody in the room. I started.
Yes, you are.
In the late 70s, and you could get in there. But when the drinking age was 18, I was in there before that, and you didn't need ID to drink. But I mean, the house bands then it was like White Tiger and Phantoms.
White Tiger, yeah.
Twisted Sister too.
Twisted Sister.
I was there a lot, and like then when Perry was at Aerosmith, Joe Perry played there a lot. I saw Edgar Winter there. Remember seeing him there. I did see the Anvil. I saw Metallica, but it was just a place. I mean, it used to be a 50s band that played there every Thursday. I worked at Lloyd's department store, and everybody. I mean, this was just a place that was open. Well, I don't think it was open 7 days a week, but it was just a place you'd go. You didn't really. It wasn't like you were going because a band was playing. You went Friday, Saturday night, just because it was a rock club, and you went.
Right.
Let's go.
Hey, Steve, what year, this is a funny question, but it ties to Lloyd's. What year did No Remorse come out with Motorhead?
Wow. You're stumping me. I'm bad at questions like this. Somebody wanted me to do an episode of Heavy Metal Jeopardy. I said, I'm not going to get anything.
I remember being in Lloyd's and seeing the No Remorse set with a leather case on it in Lloyd's. And I was like, I've got to get that. Oh my God. I didn't pick it up, but I was like, that looked awesome at the time. You just made me think of Lloyd's, and that popped in my head.
Okay. Yeah, I
Jumped-
don't remember. What do you think? What year? Are you looking that up? Somebody looking that up on the internet?
What is it? Motorhead.
It was like
what?
80, 86, I would say, right?
Motorhead,
80,
No Remorse. Yeah.
Like 85, 84.
yeah, maybe even 84.
I think it was more like 84.
It was right after Ace of Spades, or I'm sorry, after Iron Fist.
No Remorse. Hold on. Let's see.
But jumping back to Jay,
1984. 15
Keep talking.
September 1984.
All right, you guys made me think of Lloyd. So
yeah,
And-
Ramon played at JB too. Did
What's
anybody
that?
there?
What's that?
Who was
The
it?
Ramones
JB's?
played?
The Ramones.
I don't remember the
Yeah, the
Ramones at JB's. I saw the Ramones at the Class.
I was there that too for that too.
Yeah, they played
the
at
Ramones
JB's.
The Class was so fucking packed. You couldn't even get inside. I watched most of the show from outside on the street where I didn't really watch it, but I was there. You know, I went in for a little while and you couldn't breathe. You know.
Oh, it was ridiculous. Yeah, then they broke out the front window. Remember the window of the club got completely broken.
I wasn't
out.
there at that show.
Late glass window. Well, yeah, we were out. Me and Steve were outside. We couldn't get
Yeah,
in.
yeah,
He went
I
in
mean,
for a bit. I didn't go in, but it was so packed. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't remember Ramones playing JB. So you saw that over there, Steve?
Yeah, Kelly was really upset because she was like 13 years old at the time and her sister wouldn't take. I didn't even know her at that time, of course. But yeah, me and Mike Apfel went there. It was a good show.
I
You
had
know?
such good times at that club. I haven't had a dream, but years ago I used to dream that I was there. It's like, wow, JB's is open again and I can go again. And you wake up, what, you crazy?
Yeah, it's like you said. It was like it's just the place to go Friday or Saturday night. It didn't really matter who was playing. We saw Monroe, Phantoms Opera. I mean, I had a fake ID at the time. Well, no, I didn't. I shouldn't admit that. Well, it doesn't matter now, but you know. But yeah, you used to sneak no photo IDs back then. And I saw White Tiger there, Twisted Sister. I was way too young to see Twisted Sister. I was always scared that D was going to pick me out of the crowd and say something. He back then was brutal, man. If somebody wasn't getting into the band, he would like literally stop the show, point them out, and he would like really tear into them. So I always made sure that I thrashed because I didn't want to get picked out by D. You know? Little kid scared.
It was a fun place for sure. Ralph, what else do you want to mention? Let's do one more show with you, then we'll move on to somebody else.
About JB's Rock 3, that Metallica show you went to, when Metallica released that box set for Kill 'Em All, that big box set. In that box set is a DVD of the show at JB's Rock 3.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
So I have it on vinyl from your store, and but that show they recorded it, but for some reason the audio goes out at one point, but they still put up the whole show on the DVD.
And the only way of getting that is actually from that box set. You have to get the Metallica Kill 'Em All box set. And yeah, it was, and then JB's Rocks 3 was spelt wrong. It was spelled BEES on it. It was JB's, but yeah, that made Middletown a little famous. There is some bootleg vinyl floating around of that show that I've seen also, but for some reason that show, lasted. And talking about this area, we're talking about Middletown, but of course I saw Metallica in Port Jervis on that same tour at the State Theater, which is now not even there, with Chris Caffery's band Anti opened up. Chris may jump in, but he said we were doing it too early tonight. So
he's very busy. He's a very busy guy.
Yes, gardening. No, no, he is busy. But anyhow,
Since you bring up Anti, that's my next show. Is Militia and Anti played the Orange County Community College when I was a kid.
Did they? They played Ock right next to me here. Wow, I don't remember that. Where did they
In
play?
the gym. You're probably in the gym, right?
It was in the auditorium.
Yeah, there's Orange Hall, right? There is a small like auditorium there with seats where they have had music over the years.
I don't know if any other bands played that show, but I remember Militia and Anti, and that was a different venue. It's at the community college there in Middletown.
Okay, yeah. I can remember.
Yeah, I went to a show there once too. It was the fuck did they? I think it was Zebra. Remember Zebra?
Yeah, they played.
Oh,
yeah.
Zebra played there, and then I think Rat Race Choir was on that show, and me and Fran Stuber and Jim Valente, and God, I think they were doing a bunch of concerts, like rock concerts there back. Might have been around the same year at JB's that that the Raven show had. They were doing stuff there, and
I hazily remember a little of that. I mean, I should because I could just stumble home from there. I
Yeah.
walk the dog past it every day. But I mean, I'm glad he brought that up because Ock was a venue in Middletown I didn't even think of because I saw my first show there. I saw Meatloaf at Ock. I was at
Yeah.
the Bat Out of Hell tour before he broke, and no one really, it was. I think it was just taking off a little bit, and they got him there, and a year later they were one of the biggest bands around at that.
It's funny because I remember I just talked about this show. I think it was like last year after the NAMM show, the NAMM convention in Anaheim, and we did it like a Montrose Ronnie Montrose remembered thing where a bunch of guys get together and we do all Montrose songs.
Yeah.
So I go to this rehearsal thing and a couple singers didn't show up. So I just started helping out, like Carmine, a piece was playing drums and I can't remember who the fuck else was. Oh, what's his name? Used to be in Machine Head. God, I can't remember his fucking name. It's guitar player. But anyway, so I'm there's this other guitar player there. I don't know who he is because there's always like some guy there that you don't know or whatever. I just thought he was just some local dude, whatever. He was an older dude. And I'm playing and he keeps looking at me. I'm like, yeah, cool. Yeah, you dig my singing. Cool. Like whoever this guy is. So I'm going back over to the convention center or over to somewhere, wherever we were going. But he was going to the same place because everybody goes to the hotel bars and hangs out at the hotel bars after the show. Yeah. So I said, all right, dude, you can jump in with us because I had my car. I said, jump in the car. We'll just, we'll drive over. And he's like, sure, yeah, cool. He jumps in the front and I'm driving, whatever. And he starts talking about his band and he starts talking about New York. And I go, where in New York you from? Oh, I live in Long Island. He goes, I said, what's the band? He goes, Zebra. I go, and right then I was like, Randy Jackson,
The light bulb went
and
off.
I was like, son of a bitch. Like, it just was like, it all came flooding back. And I was so fucking embarrassed that I didn't recognize this guy. And I just played with him for 2 fucking hours. I had no idea who he was. So I was like, fuck, man, I saw you when I was 14 years old. Orange County Community College, Rat Race Choir opened for you guys, blah, blah, blah. He's like, I remember that show. So, totally cool guy, but just was like, yeah, I'm a lot older now, dude. It's all right. Don't worry about it. It's like, I don't even recognize the guy, It's such a mind fuck.
They played the Chants like a million times.
Yeah. I've seen tons of times, but I didn't, recognize him to save my life, So
at Ock, I mean, you're even in the 80s, they tried doing like a concert series in the gym, which is the newest gym, where the big gym is now.
Yeah.
And like one of the things, this is way off any Middletown Metal, but they had, I saw Jerry Garcia there, and there was Deadheads all over the neighborhood here.
Yeah.
And Cyndi Lauper was another one that was a concert they threw. I don't know why they stopped, but that one summer they had a few shows there.
Yeah, it was cool. It was actually something to do, when there's not really much to do there.
Yeah.
When you're 14, 13, 14 years old.
We're gonna head over to Mike Usifer. He was telling me a little story because we were trying out the Zoom on Saturday. On the first Zoom, Mike got to do the Zoom and Ralph on Sunday. We tested it out. Mike was talking about a couple shows he had played in Middletown, so maybe we'll come over to him and chat about some Primeval history here in town.
Yeah, we played so many different places in Middletown. One of the first places in Middletown we played was the old skating rink.
Oh yeah.
We did a battle of the bands there in 85, but we weren't Primeval yet. We were Mutilator.
I remember. I still have the videotape, dude.
Was that the skate park that was up on Tower Drive in Scotchtown?
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Oh, the roller disco, the arcade. Yeah.
Cheapskates. Yeah.
Yeah.
They had a stage in the corner, and they had to battle the bands. We were still all in school, man, and we were like, "Yeah, fuck it, battle the bands. Let's do it." We were definitely the heaviest band there.
We were. I can attest to that.
You were at the show too, Andrew. Did you play?
I played the show. I was in the battle. I was one of the bands in the battle.
So, what band were you in, Andrew?
I don't remember the name.
I
don't want to cut Mike off, but I was. It was myself and Fran Stuber and Jim Valenti on drums. Rich LaPreciosa was the bass player, big tall dude from Scotchtown.
LaPreciosa's brother. Yeah, I'm good. Yeah. But
Mike, it was Mike and Gary. It's funny because Mike and myself and Gary Day, we all grew up in Pine Bush together. We were young kids. So it's funny because who everybody who was on that show was kind of like from the same town. It's like Scotchtown, Pine Bush, area.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I still have the videotape. I don't know if you have it, Mike, but I should probably get it. I should probably digitize it and send it to you. Because I still remember to this day, there was some girls there. I don't know if they were somebody's girlfriends or something, but every time between songs, you would hear them when everybody was playing, like everybody's band, Mutilator, like they just like counted off, Mutilator, But,
Yeah, they were definitely girlfriends, man. we did not have a fan base at all.
I don't think
Nice posse there. So
yeah.
So that's a show I didn't remember. I was probably too old to go there at that time. I remember shit happening. I was like, I'm not going to.
Yeah, it was because it was those guys, and they played like you guys played like Slayer and Metallica covers, I think, and I don't know if you played any original stuff.
A couple originals. I think we did like 2 originals.
Yeah, and Mark Pittenger was your singer.
That's right.
Yeah.
Very short-lived.
Very short-lived. Well, yeah, because
dude, he got stage fright, man, and didn't sing half the songs.
Oh shit.
So, yeah, it was pretty bad. So we were like, yeah, sorry, man. And we got Andy in the band shortly after that.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
I guess we should have got Andy to come on tonight. That should have been. That was the one I kind of overlooked it.
He's out with his.
I was gonna call Gary and see if he was doing it because I thought maybe I don't know. You guys still talk, Mike? You and Gary?
No, I haven't talked to him in years, man.
Really? Oh, really?
Yeah.
So anyhow, Mike, let's go back to you and we'll talk about some other stuff. You were talking about playing with Sepultura once too. I think we were chatting a little bit about that. Was a interesting one.
Yeah, that was it. That was at Rock Palace.
Rock
I mean,
Palace.
there were a lot of sick shows there in that short year, man. You know that.
Oh yeah.
Sepultura show was sick. Ed Farshty and Psycho from Roadrunner brought them up the night before to we were rehearsing at the Grunge. That's where we used to rehearse back then. And they brought them up there that night and just started partying from that night until they left 2 days later, and we saw them again down in Long Island, and it was still a party going on. Yeah, those guys are crazy, man. I don't know how they can drink so much and play like on stage like that. Really don't.
They were young kids back then too. They were
They were totally young, man.
That was on the Beneath the Remains tour, right?
Yeah, definitely my favorite album, man. Well, that and Schizophrenia, but Violent Plague, Cynic, Malevolent Creation, and Us. That was a Sunday after matinee show.
Was that at Rock Palace?
Yeah, that was at Rock Palace too. That was another. That was crazy.
I think you played one of my anniversary parties at the Rock Palace, maybe with Deranged, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's when we ran out of material and we had to play Die by the Sword twice to fill up the time.
Okay.
Last 2 songs, yeah. We were totally out of originals, and we hadn't played covers in years. So I think that was the only song we could actually all remember, and we had to play it twice.
That was Steve's Christmas party. I think it was the debut of DCM, As One, Primeval, Anguish Society, Kill Power, Deranged, Violent Plague, Corruption, Malicious Onslaught, Bent Circus, and Militia.
Jesus.
They all played the same day?
That was all in one day. It was Steve's Christmas.
Crap. That was more than a Christmas party. It sounded like a festival.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Holy shit.
How much did Steve pay you? Did Steve pay you? I hope he paid you.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Drink tickets.
Whoever was Louis,
oh my God,
was paying him. But
yeah, that's right. And
Louis, that's the reason Rock Palace closed is because Louis had a heart attack and died. He lived upstairs, and he also ran.
Yeah, dude, we rehearsed there.
Yeah.
And we went to show for rehearsal and couldn't get into the place, and we're calling and I don't know who we got in touch with, but finally someone was like, "Yeah, Lou died," and
that was
horrible.
horrible.
Like, damn, how do we get our gear? But somebody met us there to let us get our gear out of there. But yeah, we were rehearsing there when that happened. Yeah.
Wow.
In fact, that night, or the next day after Lou had, had the medical situation and passed away, and it was very sad for all of us because Lou,
no doubt,
great guy. And I mean, Lou had a club in New Windsor before that.
He had Dundee's, yep.
Dundee's, yeah.
And the night they actually had a national act coming in that night, we had Dead Brain Cells from Quebec in town, and they still did a in-store at my shop. But of course, there was nowhere to even move the show to at that time. It was like nobody wanting to do a show. I mean, we're back to that point here in Middletown now. There's nowhere to play live music. I mean, Quinn's Pins is actually the bowling alley is doing some shows, and that's the only place in town that you can do a live, like any kind of a metal show.
That's
Yeah,
too
but we're all old now, so who gives a shit?
Dude,
Oh, yeah. I know.
some of the shows at the Grunge Club were the best, man. I mean, that was, I think,
Yeah.
Talking about playing Middletown shows. I think the second show we ever played was at Twin Towers Middle School.
I was at that show at the high school. Yeah.
Yeah, we played that. And then it was shortly after that we kind of started being based in Middletown, because before that we were down in Westchester, where our other drummer Tad and Mary were from. So we were pretty much based out of there during that point. But yeah, once we got Todd in the band, we needed a place, and I was actually living across the street from Twin Towers.
Yeah.
And I don't even know how we got on that bill, but I know we had just started rehearsing at the Grunge Club, and that would have been the third show we played in Middletown, was something you put together, because you even videotaped it. I think we did a 30-minute set, and I think Affirmative played too, and XCOM and Circus. It was just all the Middletown bands.
Yeah.
And Mark Johnson probably had something to do with it. If it was up there, there was a guy named Mark Johnson that used to book bands and act really crazy. He was in the punk rock and metal, and he was one of the. He had another nickname, which I'm not going to say on the show, but he was one of the legends back then.
Yeah, we played another Battle of the Band shortly after. No, actually, way before that. Back when Alex Landolina and Steve Hansen were in the band.
Okay.
Demoniac, and Steve went on to Morpheus, and and Beacon at Rombout Junior High School, he did a Battle of the Bands. We played that too, so we knew him from way back then. So yeah, it's crazy how small circles are, man, in Hudson Valley, you know.
Yeah.
Now, I have
Go ahead.
was the Grunge Club the place that was in the Classy Leather building?
Yes. Up the fire escape there. You had to go up, and it was a bitch. And if it was raining or cold out, it was slippery as shit. These guys had to move all their equipment up and down. That was the only way in or out. Was that?
Yeah.
What could go wrong?
Or
I remember being there. I was very, very young. An older friend took me there, and somebody was playing Ozzy covers, and I remember I was young enough to be a little bit scared. Like standing in there, I was like, "What the fuck's going on here?" But it was
I'd be scared now.
So fascinating. I'm scared this minute. I'm scared.
Me too. I'm scared too. It's 2021. I'm scared of everything.
Exactly. I just wanted to make sure that I was thinking of the right place, and I was.
Oh, you've been scared in a lot of places.
And it's a legendary building, because another national act was still using it recently, till a couple of years ago. Coheed and Cambria were using that room. We're using and they actually had it wasn't upstairs though, it was downstairs. The guy that owned the rent, it's like a storage unit. It's called Fort Knox now, and he bought a pinball machine from me about 3 summers ago, and he brought me up there, and he goes, "This is where Coheed practiced, the band." And it was like a room, and it was really like a fortress down, and it was nice. It wasn't like how upstairs was, but
we rehearsed there a few times.
Okay.
Back in 2012, actually, when Steve Levin was in the band, we did rehearse there a few times.
There's a guy named Wes that owns it. It's quite a peculiar guy. He had a go-kart track up on the 3rd floor. He was racing go-karts, and he was quite a character. But I think he still owns it. I haven't seen him since the pandemic. But
I did a rehearsal there back in when we did that. My brother put together some show at the Chance. This was his back in the day. He called it the Back in the Day Festival. It was us, and I don't know who else.
I remember that. I do remember. That wasn't too long ago.
It was like 2010 or something, 2011, something like that.
I remember being in that building a lot in the 80s because what did Believer turn into? Wise Guy. They shared a rehearsal room with Militia. and there for
Okay,
a couple
yeah.
of years in that building.
The Kopex, of course.
They share.
Another people we probably should have got in. That's why I want to do part 2. But yeah, Steve, someone else had like a recording studio or something down in the lower part of it. Like there's like a bay, and someone had to do sound down there.
Huh.
Yeah. That sounds familiar.
I know Bill Gallucci had some space in there at one point, and it was like a side. Everybody had space in there. And well, it's such a big building. It's hard to. I'm sure there was tons of places because I know where Scott and Rick Kopech rehearsed. It was kind of in the front of the building, the front right corner of the building. Like there was a loading bay alley, right
through there. Yep.
Then Billy's place was when you went. There's the loading dock, that main loading dock in the front of the building. Yes. It was up the stairs and down the hall on the right hand side. There was a little room that it was him and God, I can't remember who it was. Names are escaping me, but I know Bill Gallucci had it there. Yeah,
I know. Yeah, I remember that well. And I'll tell a quick story about that building before we move on to something else. A few years ago, this guy was coming in the store, and I'm looking at him, and I was like, he looks a lot like the singer of Coheed and Cambria, because they've gotten so big. And my niece was a huge fan, and she listened to it all the time when I would go to Florida and visit my mother-in-law and stuff where she lived. And I'm like, guy from Coheed, right? I think I know you. He's like, nah, you don't know me. And then eventually, he broke down. He's like, and I said, everybody thinks that, you see the tour bus in town, and everybody thinks that you're Jimmy Stewart. So they don't think that. Yeah, he goes, Jimmy Stewart, the Polka King, was the only guy that had a tour bus here in Middletown.
Yeah.
As I know. Plus Caffery's got one by now. And of course, one more thing while I'm thinking about it, back in the day, Sonny's Pub, which is on the way to Steve Levin's house, going up in the Otisville, which is not Sonny's Pub, it's actually closed now, but it was there for years. I used to go see a Sunday afternoon jam session there, and Scotty Hill would always be there from Skid Row, because Skid Row had some of their roots in the Middletown area too back.
Where was that?
Sonny's Pub. Do you remember Sonny's? It was on if you're just heading out of Middletown, 211 towards Otisville.
211. Oh, okay, yeah.
Irish pub, and he used to pull the tables back and have a band play there. And boy, I would get lit up in that place. But that's a long, long time ago. That was way back before Skid Row.
Yeah.
Hey, does anyone remember what was the biker club that used to have a space at Classy Leather Goods out in the back? Anyone remember that?
Might have been the Cycle Lords.
I think it was.
Because they were the local club around here for the most part.
Okay. I remember one time going around the back and I found a cocaine-encrusted $100 bill rolled up back there, and I was like, yeah! So
that's a win-win.
Was it the $100? Was it the $100? Was it the value of it, or was it the encrusted part?
Yes. Yes.
So Jim, you said you got to take off in a little while, and it's getting near that time you mentioned before we went live. So let's talk to you a little bit about Affirmative Action and Mario Porco and who's the other member in the band? Refresh my memory.
Dan Q City, who's in a band now called Cell 63, I think.
Okay.
So they're still kicking around. Yeah. So just shows that stick out of my mind. The biggest thing, first of all, is going back to the Anvil show. That was like the first underground rock show I ever went to. Prior to that, I think the first show I ever saw was Sabbath with Ian Gillan in like 83. And it had nothing to do with Middletown, but I was telling the story the other day and people were freaking out about it. I remember we got tickets for it and we're driving down to New Jersey. Someone's mom was driving us down and she's like, I want to go shopping in Paramus, so I'm just going to pull over in the highway, and you guys just run across the highway over there to the Brendan Byrne Arena, and then I'll pick you up on the way back. We're like, yeah, sure, yeah, let's go. We're like so psyched to run across the highway. Like I told someone last week, and they're like almost like wanted to go back in a time machine and call Child Protective Services or something.
Yeah, that's not a very parental thing to do, I don't think. I mean, you guys
different time.
Yeah. We're like, fuck it, we're gonna run across the highway. This is the Black Sabbath. What else,
Play Frogger to get to see Sabbath with Ian Gillan. That was the Born Again tour you saw.
Yeah, Born Again tour 83.
Quiet Riot opening up there.
Yeah. Who opened up Quiet Riot?
That was Quiet Riot opening up. I was really hammered. I remember my wife picking me up when I was that young, and where you say, I'm going to Sabbath tonight, and I started drinking in Middletown thinking that was a great idea.
I was mixing that show up with like Deep Purple, Girls' School opening up with them there.
That was Deep Purple, Perfect Strangers. Yeah, I was at that also. Yeah, and I forgot the girls' school opened for that. Yeah, wow.
I was mixing that up. But the first show I ever went to Middletown was Anvil, and I was so psyched. I thought for sure I was going to get like pulled out and not let in, but no, forget about it. You guys were speaking of the Kopecks before. I remember Bob Kopech talking about Talus playing there too, and he was like a huge Talus head. So he'd always talk about, what was it, Billy Sheen? That was the bass player.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was the first show that I was ever psyched on. I know the dildo and the freaking S&M wear just made my night, so. But the classy leather, well, first after that, I think we saw Militia. I think they probably played Middletown High School because I went to high school with the Tranchinas. And so I'm sure that they played a show. And I remember they did like a total set of they basically played Kill 'Em All from start to finish. I'm pretty sure, Middletown High School. And I was like, this is fucking...
Militia were great. I mean, they sounded so good when we'd go see them, and they did a great cover of Start the Fire by Metal Church. I love them doing that. I mean, they were more of a cover band than they were say Primeval, or you guys doing originals. Militia had the Militia Mansion, which was down the street, the other white factory down the street from my house. And they would have their thing and their crew, and then some of the other people would come in there to be fights. But I just remember Militia doing, they did some covers, and they did some of that stuff really good.
Yeah. But for me, the biggest band growing up there too was seeing Bent Circus. I mean, they were just
yes, of course.
Yeah, they were awesome. Yeah.
At that age, so Kill Your Immediate. I still have the demo somewhere. Kill Your Immediate Family. I think I have it in my garage. So that, or was there something before that? I don't remember. Was there something before that or not?
I don't remember all the demo names. Ralph, you might remember more of that stuff from me.
They had their first 7-inch was Raise Your Fist and Scream or something like that. Raise Your Fist and Yell or something. I have the 7-inch still.
Didn't work at Record Town and they were giving them out there or something? I remember that. I got handed one there.
Brian Rapp worked for me for a while, but the song I remember the most from Bent Circus was "Shut Up." Shut up. Hate your fucking guts. Shut up. Dog. Daisy, it's okay. I'm not yelling at you. The dog's sleeping next to me. Sorry.
I think the name of that song was "Quit Your Bitch, Put Your Fist in the Air."
Quit your bitching and put your fist in the air. Exactly, because I had the 45.
Yeah.
45.
Yeah.
I mean, Bent Circus. Mike mentioned it. You got to get somebody from Bent Circus on, and I tried, but they were one of our biggest bands in this area.
They were the first band I remember from Middletown, and that was back when they were Axis.
Yeah,
I was still
Axis.
I was still in high school, and they were Axis, and they were playing Davidge Park. I'm like, damn, I want to play big park like that. That was sick. We played the skate park. But yeah, that was I remember them from back then, and then they changed their name to Bent Circus, and
I tried.
It was gory and great from that point on.
Oh, yeah, they did a whole theatrical show that it was kind of like our Guar in a way.
Yeah, but they had cool, catchy stuff, that you could get into live, and those chants "Shut Up,"
And they should have broke out of this area. They really should have.
I agree.
I agree. Well, they got screwed on a deal where that shit sat forever and they couldn't even touch it. So that put a damper. Trust me, I know how getting screwed out of deals can hold you back for years, man.
Yeah. I remember I tried putting on a show at Davidge Park. We had everything in place, but it got pulled because we had the band Demoniac on it, and someone some alderman or something in town saw that, and that was no. And
I remember.
Yep.
I totally remember that. Yep.
Demoniac. I don't know if you guys run it too. I don't remember the other bands that we had planning for it. And it was wow, we got the permit to play under the pavilion up at Davidge and got yanked. It was really tough to pull shit off. It still is around here anyhow. I remember.
And those guys are so undemonic too. If you knew any of them.
No truth in advertising?
None at all.
Another show. There was another big show that went on in Orange County Park back then. I still have some pictures of it in the store somewhere.
July 4th, they were doing shows. I had a shirt from it from a long time ago. I remember that. It was SK Communication, I think, set it up.
Yeah, XCOM did. We played that. I think Morpheus played too.
Yeah. We played
I
that.
don't remember whoever else. There were
I
kegs,
got,
so
I got all
I
the
was
info.
going.
on that shit.
Ralph's got all the info. Go, Ralph.
Ready?
Let's hear it.
Orange County Park, 4th of July.
Yep.
City Menace, Demoniac, Existence, Big Gulp, Affirmative Action, The Inverted, Corruption, Functional Idiots, and Excommunication. And there was fights
Wow.
all day, and there was beer trucks there.
Yeah.
And there was a big
I
brawl at the
remember.
end.
Wow.
Huge.
What year was that, Ralph? Does it have a date on it or no?
It's 4th of July. I don't have the date.
It was probably 85, 86. It was way back
87, I
there.
think.
87.
I think it was 87.
Yeah, probably 87. Yeah,
remember
we didn't do that
leaving-
show with Morpheus. We did another show that I think
Yeah, The Inverted with Yench with
the main
Morpheus was
put together.
Yeah, Morpheus. Of course, another band that we haven't mentioned yet tonight that, you know, I tried to get Kenny on the show tonight, but we'll loop back and do something down the road. But of course, Morpheus Ascends, who's still active and has toured around the world, you know, from Middletown, of course, death metal and from the death metal scene. And, you know, of course, we have Chris Caffery, who may pop in, but I don't know if he's coming. Of course, that came out of Middletown and gone on to do things with Savatage and TSO and Andrew Freeman's and a couple of famous bands too. You broke out, man. I'm still here. You didn't. You escaped. You guys made it out.
You know, we did our thing.
Let's talk to Andrew about a couple shows you played in town or something. What bands you were in back then, and let's talk a little bit about that.
Well, we did. It was later on. It wasn't in the early days, like in the 80s. It was 94, maybe. It was. We played with Marilyn Manson at
Sportland.
Sportland. Yeah. We
What
did that
band
Sportland
was
show.
that?
Heavens to Mergitroid was the band I was in at the time.
And that was Marilyn Manson's first ever tour.
Yeah, it was on the first Portrait of American Family record.
Yep.
The first tour of that. We did that, opened for them. And I think Monster Magnet was on it too. Now, Monster Magnet was the other. Oh no, it was Monster Voodoo Machine, I think was the other band.
And
That
Sportland.
we did that one. We did it, Steve. We did a bunch of shows at the class. I can't remember half of them. Steve might remember. We did played with Vinnie Moore. We played with who else we played with? Do you remember any of those?
Me, Steve, or Steve Keeler?
You,
Massey.
Steve. Massey.
I mean, I
Because
remember
Steve was
doing-
there. Steve was usually
I
there.
don't remember.
I remember dozens of them at the class. I'm just trying to remember who, headlining shows and opening and.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I
I
mean, we
remember
did. Go ahead, sorry.
The very
were some of
first
those?
night the class opened was TT Quick, right? Was that the first
Oh
opening
yeah,
show?
yeah. TT Quick. Yeah,
And of
Yep.
course, did you play in No Justice also, Andrew? Or was that just
I
your
did.
brother?
Yeah, and I think we did that TT Quick show. I don't remember though.
I think I was either there was you with you or the Copex. I think it was you guys.
It
I
might have
can't-
been. I don't remember. I remember the party afterwards. I remember listening to Dave DiPietro in Ray's living room, just on a little PV amp and the Les Paul, just playing all
Tearing
night.
it up, man. That guy can play.
Oh my God, that guy! That's the guy who pretty much taught Zach Wild how to play.
Wow.
And he was just phenomenal. I think I'm friends with him on Facebook now, but he's like a mortgage broker now in New Jersey. But he's God, that guy was one of the best guitar players I think I ever heard in my life. Yeah, we did that. We did TT Quick. We did. I think we did. We played with Jeff Pilson's War and Peace.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and the guitar player is a guy named Russ Parrish. And he plays with Steel Panther now. His name is
Oh.
Satchel now, and he's in Steel
Oh, yeah.
Panther. And then
Okay.
the
I
bass,
remember that show.
Pilson was the bass player from Doc, and he's in Foreigner now. And
Yeah.
who the else was in that? Ricky Warwick was in that band, I think. Ricky Warwick now plays with Alice Cooper.
Ricky
So-
Warwick from Black Star
From-
Riders.
from Warrior. Remember if he
Okay,
was
yeah.
no, not Ricky Warwick. No, I'm sorry.
No. Yeah, I was gonna say.
That's the guy
Ricky-
from Thin Lizzy. What the fuck is his
Yeah,
name?
not Ricky, who we just had on the show a few weeks ago. Yeah.
Oh God, he used to play with Chris and Chris's band, Chris Caffery's band.
Oh, okay.
Shit, he plays with Alice Cooper. Now I can't remember any fucking names. This is when I need to write things down. It'll come to me. I'll yell it out when somebody else is.
Right in about 10 minutes, just blurt it out.
Yeah, and then we didn't do it, but the Alice in Chains show was a big show for me there when they played at the class. That was I got to be there. I was the runner for the club, and I got to drive. I was driving Lane and
Okay.
I drove a couple of them around. Yeah, Lane Staley and Sean Kinney, the drummer. And then 2 days later we went down and saw them. They were on the Van Halen tour. They couldn't play as Alice in Chains because they were, I guess, it was a contract thing with the Van Halen tour. So we ended up going down to see them open for Van Halen. And we walk into this party after the show, and it's a gold record party for Facelift. They're getting their gold record and they're taking all these pictures. And I drove Lane and Sean a couple days earlier, and after the party, after they got their gold record, Lane like beeline to me at the bar, and he hadn't talked to me, like didn't say a word to me in the car. It turned out him and the bass player kind of were dope sick because they couldn't find anything, and then they got right after the Van Halen show, and the guy was just such a down to earth dude, and like sat there at the bar and talked to me for like 45 minutes, and coolest fucking guy. But it all came from just because he was rude to me when I was driving into his hotel. That was a pretty awesome fucking show. I don't know if anybody was there for that one, but that was.
I was there.
Yeah, awesome change. That was another one where I spent a lot of time out front because it was so crowded, because I had House and Chains in my store a couple months before that when they played at the fairgrounds opening up for the Slayer at the Clash store, and they were really unknown when we got the okay to do the in-store. And we did that, which was one of the most memorable times in rock fantasy history, actually, because we didn't know. Yeah. We didn't know if they were going to be popular. We didn't know who they were. And then who
knew?
Well, I don't know, Steve, Massey, if you were there at Soundcheck or not, if anybody was there at Soundcheck, but they were writing the song Junkhead. They were writing it at Soundcheck. And
I think my most vivid memory from that was him coming out with his head shaved and an upside down cross on his forehead.
Yeah.
It was
just
a great
grease
show.
paint, dude. Just grease paint like right across. It was awesome, man. What a great show, man. It was definitely a great experience, to be like, and then we went over to Casey's afterwards after the gig, and everybody, the whole band was over there hanging out, drinking.
Wow.
I think it was a Tuesday night too. It was, I think, wasn't Tuesday night like the metal night there at Casey's, where somebody was
the like regular bar behind where Pizza Hut is, correct?
But John, I think John Van Cleek.
Music.
John Van Cleek used to DJ in there, and he would play all
the preacher.
Oh, yeah.
I went to school with him.
Yeah.
He DJ'd at the downtown too.
Did he? Yeah. Yeah. So we
never really did metal, but we got some shows. There were some shows in the downtown.
Just saw. I mean, the Speedway shows. They were. I saw everybody at the Speedway. Saw Metallica the night that.
OJ.
And I was never. I'll say it. I was never a big Metallica fan. I just went because I wanted to go out because it was just something was going on, and I was in the bar. Was it 31st lap?
31st lap. Yeah, of course.
I was in there and walked into the 31st lap, and I look up on the screen and on the TVs, and OJ.
The white Bronco, yeah.
Oh, the white Bronco is going. That was the night OJ was driving around with trying to get away from the police. So.
That was the same night that I was doing a promotion at Sportland, I think with Z-Rock, and I had left the Metallica show before it was over. And and it was hot. It was a brutal hot day out, and I got over to Sportland and I experienced the same thing. Everybody's watching the TV.
Yeah. I mean, if the bar was packed just watching this thing on TV, it was crazy. I mean, there's so many, man. I mean, it was a cool scene for a while. Even the little club shows. I remember seeing it up at the Chance. I saw Michael Schenker group and the Black Crows open for him. You know what I mean?
Oh, the Chance, yeah.
The Black Crows were the opening band, and it was fucking, before they were anything. A lot of shows like that, just opening bands, like cool opening. Oh no, they opened for Guns N' Roses. It was too. Guns N' Roses opened for EZO. Remember EZO? The
the
Japanese band.
Yep. So anyhow, cool. Steve Levin, we haven't talked to you yet. What do you got to say tonight?
Oh man, so many memories with just everybody talking about so many of these different shows and everything. I was playing in Excommunication for a long time. we were pretty antisocial, to be honest with you. We stayed up at Duke's house in Washingtonville, between Washingtonville and Chester. And we didn't come down that much, but when we did, we always had a good time. And funny memory back in those days is as soon as we were exposed to punk, like Circle Jerks and Minor Threat and everything, we just loved that stuff. So we got into slam dancing and all that kind of stuff. And we decided we were going to go to Militia Mansion one night. And I knew Militia. I had seen them a few times. Actually, they had played.
I think I remember this night.
Yeah, this was a funny show, funny story. So they actually played a party where I took my wife Kelly on a date for the first time. It's actually June 29th, 1986. So we were going out for about 6 months, and I was playing in XCOM. So we decided we were going to go up to Militia Mansion and see the show. And I knew who Militia was, but like I didn't know them personally. And Militia were some tough kids, man. You didn't go start trouble. If you did, you were liable to get in a fight. Yeah. So we went there, and I went with this guy Rick Wilson, and Rick was a little bit of a troublemaker.
I remember this night completely.
Skinhead, no shirt, suspenders, Doc Martens. So we go up there, and Militia started playing something we liked. So we decided we're going to start slam dancing. Well, nobody had seen slam dancing in Middletown at that point, or whoever did wasn't at that show. And Rick Wilson actually ran right into Vinny's girlfriend and knocked her on her ass. So Vinny was like, as soon as he saw that, he dropped I literally remember him dropping his guitar and jumping up and going right after Rick. And I don't know what happened. Rick is actually lucky he didn't get the crap beat out of him, actually, when I found out a lot more about Vinny. And I was with Kelly, and we're getting out of here. I'm like, I'm not going to have any part of this, because he was starting trouble. And when I get to the door, Rocco was standing there with a metal pipe. And he looked at me, and I looked at him, and I said, we don't have a problem here. And he goes, yep, we don't have a problem. He said, go ahead. So we went downstairs, and the Bent Circus boys were down there. Big Jim Rich was there, and he said, the shit would hit the fan. We were going to roll with you guys. So that was cool. Yeah.
We're lucky we didn't get that. I mentioned in the beginning of this show how the scene was divided here.
Big time.
If Militia played, their crew came out. If XCOM played, their crew came out. We could never really mend the fence back in those days to get all the bands out to support the other one.
Right. Yeah. Then I also played in the Inverted for a while. So Inverted were real well liked in Middletown. So we did pretty well with that, and played the Rock Palace a couple times and some shows like that. Birthday party. Got some flyers here. The Inverted with Violent Plague.
Oh, wow.
Oh, with Project X. I'm sorry. This is the one with Violent Plague. This show got canceled, and we played in Rob Falomia's living room.
Oh, boy.
And a certain guy, rich guy. What's that? That would be you, my friend.
Yeah, I drew that flyer.
You drew everything. Almost every flyer for any band that was ever in.
Even drew
logo. I mean, you just sent me a logo. But yeah, then I played in. I also played in Volatile Xylog. Volatile Xylog predated Morpheus Descends. Yes. And here's a show we were supposed to play with Ripping Corpse. That's another one of your flyers. Going to give you props. And here's the famous show. This was
Primeval.
in Lucknow Productions, Primeval, Violent Plague, Volatile Xylog, Infectious Waste. Infectious Waste was actually Sammy and Zara and Steve Hampton. And this was the show that actually splintered Violent Xylog. I'm sorry, Hanson, yeah. This was what splintered Volatile Xylog. Rob Yench and Ken went on to play in Morpheus Descends, and I started a band called more of Ralph's Arts. I can't find any flyers. I started a band called Behemoth, and we never really bothered to play with anybody. So we were very antisocial, and we pretty much got in fights with every other bands that we played with. So, I look back at that with pretty sad memories. We should have gotten along more with people. I guess we were considered what we consider metal elitist, but Ralph was part of the crew, so he knows. We used to call ourselves the Iron Gang. So there's a throw to Voivod right there, and we kind of kept to ourselves, but I was at a lot of different shows, and then through working at Rock Fantasy was 3 years. I was exposed to so much. It was great. Nobody mentioned Sound Asylum, which was a great place in Middletown a little later on.
Which was later than 80s, 90s. That's why, yeah, I didn't bring that one up. That was the last thing.
But,
here.
you know, they kept things real with Crisian playing there. And
that was the Crisian show was about 8 years ago today, actually.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, you know, just all good memories. We were talking about Coheed and Cambria, and it was really funny. They came into the store one day, and the guy had a tattoo of a comic book that I read, and I made a comment on him. I had no idea who they were, and somehow or another, he told me that he was from Coheed and Cambria. So felt that was kind of funny. And
yeah, Mike
and I were playing in Primeval at that time, and when we used to practice at the place, it was a studio, and Coheed played there too. So when Coheed would come into town, Primeval couldn't play in that spot. That was like the deal.
Yeah.
But yeah, all good memories. It was a good scene. We were lucky to have what we had, really. Another real funny story is that Metallica show at JB's Rock 3. I actually kneeled on the stage at that show. So if there's a DVD or video of that, you're going to see me kneeling on the right hand of the stage, right in front of Kirk Hammett. I watched him to the stage. Yeah, no, I'm right there in the front, man. And I watched Kirk, and when I went home, I picked up my guitar and I learned every Kirk Hammett lead, man. I like watched everything he did. He was like, Kirk Hammett gave me a guitar lesson that night. So thank you, Kirk. You had a big influence on my playing. That's cool. So yeah, but aside from that, you know, JB's sneaking into Twisted Sister and White Tiger and so many bands there. I was at the Anvil show. The Ramones did play there. I was at that show. So, you know, just
you forgot about one other band you played in.
Which one?
DCM.
Oh,
our band we put together to kind of heckle some other bands we may have mentioned earlier tonight that wanted like certain stage lighting and certain things, and we're like, we're DCM, we don't need anything. And I would sing 2 songs, and we'd grab people from all different bands and come out and do the parties. And Brad Mader was involved, and Duke was involved with that. We used to have Jimmy Smith do a song, and we played the Sportland, and we actually, that was with Ralph, do you have the flyer? It was Kiss Army, Morpheus Descends. It was DCM, and yeah, we were all into it that night. It's like, we're opening up for Kiss tonight. You know, it wasn't real Kiss, but it was Kiss Army, and they were full makeup. And then we had Morpheus Descends on after us. And I forget the first band. I think Danny Carrillo was in the first band that opened up. Kung Fu Jesus.
Jesus.
It was some weird, like, out of a sci-fi movie that night, because we were raided by, we were just getting off the stage. We walked out back, and people putting the gear, and Morpheus was bringing their stuff in, and all of a sudden there's a school bus pulling into the back, and we're like, what the hell? And then lines of cop cars and a helicopter. And they came in, it was some Operation Underage Drinking thing, and they were going around to other bars in town. And this was actually when I could have done a show at the class or at Sportland. There was a time where they were both, hey, do your party here. And we did it there. And it took so much money out of our pockets because they shut it down at like 10:30 at night. And that's when people went out. Back then, people didn't go out at like 8 o'clock.
No, you didn't go out early. Yeah, that's true.
10:30, or, you know. And they
that was shut, I go at 4:30 nowadays.
They shut the whole venue down and made everybody go on one side, the other side, and checked everybody's ID. I mean, the show continued, but it was just a bummer. So many people left. So many people that were probably going to come to see the 2 headline acts, or at least come see the Kiss cover band, didn't make it. That probably cost me and Marilyn, who ran the bar, a couple grand, I'd say, at least.
Jesus.
It was his 9th anniversary show, Kung Fu Jesus, DCM, Morpheus, and Kiss Army, 1994.
And it was one of the weirdest things ever. One of the weirdest shows.
Wow. Hey, fellas, I hate to do this, but I gotta jump.
Yeah.
Great. And I'll probably see
Sorry,
you
guys.
I'll see you next week. All right.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me. I'll see you guys soon.
Thank
Enjoy.
you for joining us.
See you later, Andy.
Hey, I want to say 2 things. Anyone remember the band Smut from like Chester area?
Of course, absolutely. I love those guys. I'm still friends with Rich, and I'm still friends with Tim.
Dude, Chance, dude, that dude used to scare the hell out of me, man. That was a
Yes.
band that was like
Well,
amazing.
good. I won't go into details, but he ended up in a motorcycle club years later, and I lost touch with him. Me and him were always supposed to do a band together, but Smut was an amazing band. They put out one 7-song demo, and that's another memory. I actually, the first time I ever saw Vinnie Tranchina, Rich McGann, Tim Clare, and Chance Hefner, actually, and Ted Robles, was Black Witch, the band that came before Smut, which was a cover band, played the Middletown VFW, if you can believe that. And
Wait a minute. The one right by my house here?
Yeah.
Right on, aren't
Oh,
they,
no. Oh, the one going towards the fairgrounds. Remember there was one on the fairground corner?
Yeah, I remember Black Witch, man.
They were good,
Yep.
man. I remember seeing them. Tim Clare did Ace Frehley solo on from Shock Me on Kiss Alive 2, note for note. And man, I said to Mike Apfel, I said, man, we need to get better. These guys are unbelievable. And yeah, they kicked ass. But then after that, we got to be really good friends with them because they were also metal elitists who hated everybody, and they stuck to them. But Smut and Excommunication were really, really good friends. We used to hang out all the time. And a funny thing is the first time I actually ever heard of Primeval, if I'm not mistaken, was Mike. You were living downstairs from two sisters, Patty, and I can't remember the other girl, but I used to work with these two girls, and they used to tell me that you guys lived downstairs from them.
Oh.
Yeah, that was probably right across from Twin Towers, man.
It wasn't really. Yeah, that's funny, man.
Yeah, people used to go in and out of those apartments. I was there for like a few years, but yeah, people would come and go through them, man.
Awesome.
There's an
Hey,
old.
Jim,
There's
one
one
more second because one of
Yeah.
the most important shows for me in Middletown ever.
Yeah, dude.
September 27th, 1986. Smut, aggravated assault, death rash,
Yeah.
Whiplash, and Carnivore was on the bill, but they canceled
Yeah.
because I heard that Pete had to go to work. He got called into work. But that was a complete show for me because that was the first time I ever seen slam dance in live. And I really wanted to hear you talk about that show because that was one of the most important shows to me.
I think that was the first show at the Grunge Club.
Yeah, that was.
It was, man. Oh,
yeah,
man.
I remember that too, man.
Jersey. I think we met them because we played a house show with them in New Jersey, with them and this other punk band from New Jersey, Mental Abuse. And so we met them there. They played that show, and that was awesome. Did Whiplash actually show up for that show?
Yeah, Whiplash played, but Carnivore canceled.
Yeah, okay. Tony, and Tony, right? That's Whiplash, right?
Three Tonys.
Yep. Tony. Yeah, and aggravated assault, dude. Those guys were out of hand too. I remember the guitar player, bass player had like a suitcase full of whiskey and crack.
Sounds like a party.
We played with those guys in Long Island. They're definitely nuts, man.
Went on to play, and he was in Functional Idiots, and they played in Murphy's Law too. He was the drummer of Aggravated Assault. Yeah, that was the first show at the Grunge Club. I'm pretty sure that was just like manic. I mean, I had a little, affirmative action practiced in the Grunge Club, but we didn't really. I wasn't involved in setting that up, except for like painting the walls or whatever. But that was a crazy ass show. I used to have a videotape of it somewhere too.
I have the VHS of it still.
You do? Okay. I have one, and I remember like it being foggy because the lens of like the camcorder fogged over. There was just so much people in there. It was so freaking sweaty.
Everybody was slamming like crazy too.
Yeah, dude, that was a life-changing show, dude. I'm thinking
life-changing show for me. It was the first time I seen slam dancing.
Yeah.
Me and my friends went to that as like we were 16 years old. After that show, every time we hung out and partied and drank and listened to music, we practiced our moshing. Me and Eric Carrillo perfected the chicken skank. And a couple months later, like 3 months later, Hal's Eve played there. And we were ready for it. Like we were nonstop. I could barely remember the show because I'm just nonstop moshing.
Yeah.
And luckily I had that show on VHS too. And we learned all our moves from the Whiplash show. And 3 months later, that was it. We were the crazy moshing maniacs.
The only other show I remember there was Sheer Terror too. Sheer Terror and Stillborn at the Grunge Club, and I
remember that. I was there for that one. Yeah,
it was really good. I
missed that one, but Sheer Terror used a picture of him Paul Bearer laying on the ground of the Grunge Club, and that's like inside the one of their albums.
Yeah.
That dude was intense. He was intense.
Paul was dating some girl, I forget her name, Chris, from like Chester or Washingtonville too for a long time. I don't remember her name.
He's living in Washingtonville with some girl right now.
Is he really?
Yep, right now he is.
Oh shit. Okay. Weird. Hey, then last thing I got to say before I got to go, Steve, I got a text from one of your ex-employees, Kara Sprague. She said to say hey too, so she's
Oh, cool. Of course. I didn't invite her on, but I talk to her once in a while. She's great people. She really helped steer the store in the right direction at one time.
She was telling me the story a couple weekends ago because her son and my son both race mountain bikes together, so I've been seeing her every weekend.
Oh, that's so cool. Where's Mario Porco nowadays, Jim?
Oh, yeah, where's Mario? Jeez.
I don't know. I know where his brother is. I don't know where Mario is. You know, so I know Marco Porco, but not Mario Porco. That was a name that forever changed, like playing like, you know, what was the game he used to play in the pool, like Marco Polo? He said Porco instead. So that was our thrill for, you know.
I know that, we were talking about doing an episode on the fairgrounds, and he worked at the fairgrounds.
Well, Mario and I were stagehands together at the fairgrounds.
And I think Greg may know where he is, but I mean, last time I had seen him, he used to work at Orange Regional at Horton Hospital. I used to see him up there with my dad or whatever years ago. Yeah.
Mom's house. I think he bought his mom's house in Goshen. I guess he's still living there. I could be wrong. It's been about 15 years. What's that?
10 years since I've seen him. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, Mario got me a job too. I was working at the Mid-Hudson Civic Center doing local roadie stuff too. I got to work for Slayer and Motorhead, Guitar, all kinds of shows, getting paid cash.
Yeah, I worked out there with him as well. Well, that's how I know Mario from stagehand.
Look who showed up.
Hey, look, I tried to get in this meeting about 20 minutes ago, but then I noticed the Keelers. I went to the two links he sent me, the latest two, and one was Pantera, and the other one was trying to get into Queen.
Sorry, I'm getting a little. I'm having the pandemic senior moments.
And I looked over everything. I'm like, did he text it to me? I was trying to find it. I could not find this missing one anywhere.
No big deal. So we were talking. You missed quite a bit of it. I had Andrew Freeman on when we just had Jim MacNaughton from Affirmative Action. We talked a little bit about you already and playing some gigs with Auntie and stuff in the town. And if you want to.
Auntie and Militia at Orange County Community College. We were talking about.
Oh, I remember spending a lot of money on that gig. We brought in a ton of lights and a giant stage, and that was the time when one of our singers, something happened with one of our singers, and we decided to sing the show ourselves, which was good and bad. It kind of worked and it kind of didn't. It worked for some stuff, but we weren't able to really do enough of the metal music at that time, though. So it's some of the opposite of some of the shows I did at the State Theater, where we were like doing really well and even, in some ways when we played with Overkill and stuff, we even went over better than them at their own gig. At this Auntie one was not one of the better gigs that I ever remember in my life, but it was fun. I mean, it was just crazy back then. I mean, you could have a gig that had so-called not great attendance, and I think there was still like 600 kids that went in there, and that's what like not great attendance was 600 back then. You're lucky now being at 60.
It's a different time. It's a different time.
660 is great now to get kids to go to something.
I don't remember that show, Chris, and I'm surprised because I live right next to the college, unless I was away or something. Yeah, I don't remember that.
It happened. I think it might have been in the wintertime, and it was there. It was us and Militia, but it was, like I said, we had a singer that either bailed out or my brother might have fired him. It usually is what happened. But we decided to sing ourselves, and it was kind of one of these things where it was like, a free-form jazz experiment. It was all right. I mean, nobody really was a singer at that time, so we made it through the show, but it wasn't the best show we ever had. Some of the best shows Auntie had in Middletown was the ones we did at JB's. We opened for Mountain there, and I remember opening for Blackfoot over there. And
I was at those shows for sure. I don't remember Blackfoot, but I was at Mountain for sure.
Blackfoot was funny because I think I was probably like I may have still been 16 at that time. And I just remember seeing I think it was the bass player in Blackfoot. And back then everybody had their Polaroids. And I just remember looking at this giant stack of naked chicks that he was showing me. And I was just like, wow, I can't wait to get on the road. You know, you're a 16-year-old kid, you're looking at this dude's stack of naked chicks. And I'm like, wow, it was really cool. I remember it was the first time I ever saw Leslie West live. I mean, obviously, like I said, I was very young, but he inspired me to buy an Octaver after that gig, because he was playing heavily on that at the time. Going into a lot of leads with that Octaver. And that was fun. But both of those gigs were really good. The crowds were great. There was, and they were both pretty full, those shows. I remember that. They were pretty full. And that was one of the last years I think they had the music there. That place was really, really neat. That was one of those.
We talked about Rock 3 pretty extensively because, from a lot of us seeing some of our first shows there, and that one out of business, the weekend it was going out of business, they had Grim Reaper and Alcatraz booked right before they closed. And it was like a summertime during the fair, as I was talking about earlier.
Yeah, that was a good spot if you were a touring band. I could tell from what I remember of it. They had, pretty elaborate size dressing rooms. There are a lot of the smaller clubs have closets, and they had a whole upstairs area that had a lot of rooms. I remember that. And it seemed like all the bands that were playing were really happy with going there. I mean, the stage was in a weird spot. I think you had to walk across the crowd after going down the stage to get to it. I kind of remember.
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, but that was definitely, it was kind of like when you play in Poughkeepsie when you're touring. The crowd was just that. New York State has a lot of that, redneck rock and roll America in it. So it's when you played New York State and a lot of places, it was kind of like you were going into Texas or Michigan, because you play in Poughkeepsie. That's one of the best metal crowds you'll see in America. And I remember it was like that in Middletown. It was like that when we used to play, the shows were at the fairgrounds too. It was just a really good scene for metal.
Did you ever play the fairgrounds per se, like some of the local
I
shows?
never played the fairgrounds. I remember going to see the first show I ever saw there. I just moved here, and I remember going to see Syntron was playing during the day up there, and there was probably like 2,000 people watching Syntron, during the day back then. It was, I don't know what was going on with that particular day. I don't remember, but I was up at the fair.
I think Rock and Roll Heaven North had a booth there that day, if I'm not mistaken. I remember Harold Risch being there set up, and it was like an afternoon show. I think it was actually during the fair.
Yeah, no, it was during the fair.
I forget who else played it. Ralph, do you got notes on that? Ralph's got it. Ralph's our Martin Popoff tonight, Chris. He's got it.
There you go. Good to see you. Thank you.
I don't have any kind of flyer or anything, but I remember RIP and Restless.
Okay. Yeah.
We'll have been having a tent set up, but I don't remember what other bands played that day or anything else. I don't know. I think that's out of memory. I think it was in '85, but that's all I got on that.
I just remember Syntron was really freaking good for a trio. They were a trio then, I think.
I still got a Syntron sticker on one of my speakers at the store, a bumper sticker. Yeah.
George is a badass. George played the first time TSO split to East and West. George did a little stint with the TSO thing, but he always knew that, Petrelli and me and everybody from being part of that Long Island scene. But he's a great singer and a great player. They did a lot of Van Halen stuff too. I think if I remember correctly, he was really covering that Van Halen stuff amazing back then. He's a great guitar player.
Chris, did you ever play Rock Palace? Or you played the Class, right? Did you ever play
the Class? I did the Class with
Dr. Butcher, right? I was
with Witch Doctor.
That's right, Witch Doctor. Yeah.
I think I was hammered at that gig. I wasn't when it started. I think by the time it was over with, I think I drank too much Jack Daniels. But yeah, I played there. I might have jammed with somebody who played there. I know I went to see Spread Eagle there.
I have pictures all the time. Spread Eagle used to play.
I have pictures from backstage at that show with the Spread Eagle guys.
I was working for Spread Eagle that when they played there.
They were there a lot.
Yeah.
Like it was Ray Freeman and everything else would bring in Spread
Yeah.
Eagle, and they played there a lot because I DJ'd there at that time. And I remember that's a show at the class where I found sobriety after, because I was really drunk. It was overkill. And I remember jumping off the stage, like, you know, I was I'm gonna stage dive or whatever. And I came down on my bottle of beer and chipped my front.
Oh,
It was a wake up call. I quit drinking. I quit smoking weed. And I remember the summer of 94, 95 or whatever it was. And I was like a miserable guy for a while, but it was a wake up call.
it sucks that place had the close. Well, most places closed, but that place, that was one of the ones that, I mean, I forget what the capacity was, but it was, you know, kind of a very similar to most of the rock clubs you see when you tour the country. You know, it wasn't.
Yeah, it was probably
huge.
400-ish.
Yeah, so it was, but it had a decent stage. It had a good sound.
And it still sits there empty to this day. So Chris, if you ever want to buy it and open it up, maybe talk to the mayor downtown.
Well, unfortunately, you'd have to see a generation of kids that could actually afford to go see concerts, and maybe I would, but you know.
Yeah, exactly. But it would be a nice.
They're at home right. They're at home right now trading cryptocurrency. That's what's going on. So.
Yeah, it's real exciting stuff here. But you know, the city that building sits here still where the class was. It was the empty bottle, and some guy owns it and doesn't want to do anything with it. He doesn't rent it out. He won't sell it. And I know the town would really like to do something with the building, especially, you know, before the pandemic.
He owns that whole building?
There's a guy that owns that building that supposedly owns the pizzeria across the street, and for some reason he won't do anything with it. And I know Steve knows a little bit about it, but we're not going to talk about it on the show. It's something to do. I know it's something to do where he just doesn't want anything to happen with the building, but I don't know how you do that, where you just own something and don't want to collect any money. It's just a weird thing. Like you said, it might not
Sounds like the history of my publishing. I own a lot of things I haven't collected any money on. They're somewhere.
Years ago, Frank Pallett almost bought it from the Chance because it was up for sale in between, and then the mayor, Joe DiStefano, was running it for a while. That's when it was like 28 West, and it turned into a dance club, and they had a ton of violence there.
Yeah, well, you don't have the capacity at that you do the Chance, but I would have loved it. I would have loved it if Frank had something down in Middletown. Middletown
would have been a satellite.
That location's going to do well. I mean, the whole area, I think, is going to come back.
That area's on the upswing. I was just back there, and I was every time I go back, like once a year, I'm shocked at how it definitely seems to be turning a corner.
Yeah, it's actually going to turn. It's going to take a big turn. I mean, going into that Lego. I mean, we got a Disney quality theme park in Goshen, and that's going to change everything, man. It's so nice, that Legoland facility. I mean, people complain about this and that being inexpensive and whatever. It's so nice. It's like it's state of the art theme park, and they're supposed to open an aquarium by 2024, and then they're supposed to open. I think it might be under the theme of Lego, but a Jurassic Park, a Jurassic Land, which would be pretty cool in that woods to have those giant dinosaurs in there.
You know, going back to Middletown, I mean, in downtown Middletown, I was stressed out like crazy because I couldn't get a lease on my old storefront, and you know, people watching.
Tough, right? Yeah.
Couldn't get it, and in 2019, in the fall of 2019, there was nothing left open in downtown Middletown. Now, after the pandemic, there's a lot of empty storefronts, but I made the move, and Middletown was definitely coming back. Downtown Middletown, we got the Equilibrium Brewery. We've got a lot of stuff. So, in a place doing some live music wouldn't be a horrible thing, other than, you know, Jamie over at the bowling alley, and she has some shows lining up over there now. Because I was talking to her this morning.
But it's such a tiny stage. It's
very small, but you know, it's better than nothing. For us. But yeah, the class would have been something that could happen, and maybe one day it will. Who knows?
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. What was there was the one other place that was around the corner from the downtown that used to have a tiny stage and bands played. Which one was that?
You're talking about the Rock Palace.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
where I worked, and we had talked about earlier in the show with Creator and Sepultura. We did a hardcore matinee every Sunday. Yeah, that's where Bee's Tavern is now. That was years ago. Was the Grand Saloon.
Yeah, what
Now,
was
if-
what was the what was it skate? What was the skate thing we used to hang out in?
Cheapskates out in Scotchtown.
Mike Usifer here from Primeval's in the show, and he was talking about him and Andrew when he was on. We're talking about they played a battle of the bands there at that, and that's next to where like Spectrum was back. The Cablevision was next.
Cable,
Okay, I
yeah.
couldn't remember where that was. So
Yeah.
that was back there. I don't
Yeah.
remember.
Yeah, and Rock Palace was owned by Lou, who owned Dundee's, and I know
Dundee's.
you
I
guys
remember
played
Dundee's very
Dundee's
well.
too,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
Auntie played there at least once. I think I saw you guys play there.
Yeah.
And Chris, I was talking about even before that, Sonny's Pub with Scotty Hill jamming up there.
All right,
Years ago.
I never saw that, but I'd heard about.
Yeah. So cool. So yeah, I think this is something we're gonna do a part 2 with down the road. I'm gonna try to get Brian Rapp. He just couldn't do it tonight, and get the guys from Deranged.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
always
man.
funny with them. You would. What was his band name back then?
Ben Circus.
Ben
It was
Circus.
Axis
You would
and then Ben
always, no matter what, and this is when you had Pete working in Record World.
Pete
It was-
Shefsick, yeah.
Pete Shepsick at Record.
But you would go to the old mall, and no matter when you went to the old
Morning,
mall,
noon, or night, he was there.
Ben Circus was there. No matter
Oh,
where
the Mall
you
Rats,
went,
yeah, Joe Smith. And
they
all
were
day.
always there. And even if you went at an odd day at an odd time, you'd be
Or the-
like, "Oh, I guess they're not here today." And you'd be leaving the door, and they'd be walking in.
And
It's
the only
like,
time-
Tuesday
the
at
only-
lunch, they'd be there.
And the only time they weren't there, Chris, is when the Orange County Fair was up, because they were
Yeah.
walking the fair, yes. Back in the day, yeah.
I remember that. Yeah, we had the slogan, "The Mall Rats." That's so funny.
It was Joe Smith and it was Brian Rapp for the most part. It wasn't other members from Ben Circus, but everybody thought that Joe was in the
it
band.
wasn't. Yeah, it was always the two.
I probably should have got Keith Celentano on this episode, and that would be something for next time. Keith could, but if Keith got talking, we might not any of us talk after that.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I think we need to wrap this up pretty soon, because in about a few minutes I have to come back and do another episode. We're going to be talking about Pantera later. But Ralph, you got something you want to add to the show?
Yeah, I had to go into the Hallows Eve show at the Grunge. That was such
Yeah.
an important show too. Primeval, Caligula, Hallows Eve. And I don't have a flyer for this show, but I think Ben Circus and Affirmative Action played because they were always playing those shows. And I'm wearing a 35-year-old T-shirt tonight from that
Holy
show.
shit. I
Oh,
remember that shirt.
I
That's
was from that
crazy.
show. 35 years old, still fitting it, no holes.
That's amazing. I would never fit in mine from 35 years ago.
I have shirts that are from back, like in a Holy Diver tour. I'm like, how? It doesn't even look like my freaking, like a poodle could fit in it. It looks like a small dog shirt.
Ralph, it's an amazing that you've stayed in such good shape from 35 years ago. You can still wear that Hallows Eve shirt. But yeah, finish the story.
No, just that that show we were slamming like crazy, and Hallows Eve, Metal Blade Records years later put out this this box set, and
Yeah.
they put the show from the Grunge on DVD
on there.
on the box set, like
Yeah.
2006 it came out, and it's got all 3 albums, and it has a bunch of other shows, and one of the shows is at the Chance, and I went to the Chance show. But back then they were so strict with the IDs, and
Yes.
we went with 6 of us. The 3 youngest got in because they had IDs, and the 3 oldest of us didn't get in because we didn't have IDs. So we hung out in the parking lot, and that guy Frank that keeps getting brought up with the Grunge Club,
Yeah.
he got kicked out from slam dancing for Hallows Eve in there, and we ended up hanging out in the parking lot doing whippets all night with him, and it was crazy. One of our friends fell into a wall and busted his head open. And really quick, Mike had brought up playing the Middletown Junior High School. It was a benefit for multiple sclerosis, affirmative action, excommunication, Steve Levin's band, Primeval, and Circus and Corruption played. I got a whole list of Rock Palace times. I mean,
Yeah, go over those now, please.
Okay. Well, July 16th, 1989, Violent Plague, Malevolent Creation, Cynic, and Primeval. Mike already brought the show up, but man, Cynic just blew everybody away that day. We never heard them or Malevolent Creation before, but Cynic blew everybody's minds. October 27th, 1989, Militia, Corner, and Creator. I got in for free because I went to the in-store at Rock Fantasy, and Steve asked Yench if anybody could roadie, and I jumped in. I said, I'll do it. And I got the roadie for that show, and we got in for free, me and Yench, and we moved like 2 cabinets into the Rock Palace, and Miller,
I remember that.
He said, well, I said, what can we do now? And he said, get us cocaine. And we were like, oh, all right. So we started making some phone calls, and our upstate New York prices were like way too fucking high for them. So they weren't into that. And then we said, hey, we got this really killer bud right now. And so me and Yench went on the bus, and we smoked up with Creator and Corner, and it was great. I remember Miller playing us, I think it was one of the Voivod albums, but there was no vocals to it. And we got to hear like this advanced copy of it while we were smoking up with him. And it was so cool. And then
now that Creator show, before you go ahead, real quickly, that was one of the worst days of my life, but one of the best, because I had given Greg Morris, who didn't show up tonight, but he had an excuse, he was at a wake, but I had given them everything that Creator wanted for that show, and when Creator showed up that day, there was nothing they wanted. They were used to playing stages, they were playing a floor, and there was a pole.
Yeah, there was no stage at the Rock Palace. It was
The pole.
Middle of the floor, and the manager called me up screaming on the phone, and then I said, well, then Mo didn't do what I had asked any of them to do, and they were going to leave that day. They were not happy campers. They were getting back in the bus and leaving, and Louis, who we were talking about earlier, threatened to sue them and everything, and they stayed, but they were not happy campers.
How many people did you fit in that place? I can't even remember.
That was like maybe 300-ish.
I don't even know if you can fit that many in there.
Maybe
I
250.
don't even think you could fit 300 in there.
150, 200.
Yeah, I think 200 would be pushing it. 200's elbow to elbow in that place.
No doubt.
That's right, because the bar was off to the right, the stage was to the left, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'll tell you one thing, going to like 2 years ago, Bee's Tavern is a new, some people ran that, and it's like a urban, like soul kind of place. And dude, they had the first band that had played there in years. They had the Ohio Players there, and we walked over from my store, and that was the first time I had seen a band there since the Rock Palace, and it was a national act. And they did Rolls Royce, that did the Car Wash song, and they must have
30
lost
years
their
later.
shirts. They must have lost their shirts, because they were pulling bands that played like the casino, the casino tours and stuff, and they were putting them in there. But yeah, I'm way off topic, but I wanted to add that Creator show. But Ralph, yeah, finish up. I'm loving this. I should have you go first.
That Primeval Sepultura show, unbelievable. I think it was Sepultura's first time touring the United States. A couple months later, a few weeks later, or in that same time, they played the Ritz, and they ended up making a video for Inner Sanctum, I think, or something. Inner Self. And that video came out, and all of a sudden Sepultura was like the band behind Slayer in the extreme metal world. But they were like, when they played, I remember when I went to the in-store Rock Fantasy, it was like 6 people there. And the guys in Sepultura barely spoke English. They pointed at the shirts and they mentioned the names of the shirts, but they didn't like there was nobody there. They didn't sign autographs or nothing, because they didn't even have nothing.
They just hung out, yeah. It was Paul Glacken and me and Sepultura. There's still some pictures.
I was there for that, and that show was just unbelievable.
Wow,
and,
didn't Mean Streak played that night too, the all-girl band.
Yeah,
I don't have a
flyer for the show, so I forgot who else played. I knew there was
and because I got a picture of like Max and me in the back, and I think a couple of the girls from Mean Streak were there too. I could be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure they were.
That's right. November 21st, 1989, Nonfiction, More Dread and Nuclear Assault, another great show.
Remember that, dude? It was like 10 degrees out. I remember them coming to the store and just walking from my shop over to the Rock Palace, and how bitter it was out.
Going back to the class really quick, the Halloween Night, Panic Corner, and Nuclear Assault. September 20th, 1991, Lesh 9, Human Remains, Morpheus, and Suffocation. October 9th, All Out War, Nocturnal, Deceased, and Morpheus. November 6th, Fear Within, All Out War, Morpheus, Bent Circus, 1993, Halloween Thrash Band, Bash.
That was one of my things, yeah.
Rock Fantasy's 8th anniversary show. June 22nd, 1990, Rock Fantasy's 5th anniversary show, Deranged, Primeval, and Bent Circus. December 29th, 1992, Rock Fantasy's 7th anniversary show, Xmas Massacre, DCM, DIE, Poor Excuse, Morpheus, and Bent Circus.
Jeez.
November 1st, 1991, Rock Fantasy's 6th anniversary show, Biopsy, Primeval, and Bent Circus. May 9th, 1992, Matricore, Morpheus, Sorrow, and Immolation. And I'm going to leave off all the Sportland shows and fairground shows. I had 38 shows that I had.
So we're going to do a part 2, and I'll have you on, Ralph. And I know you're a great guest to have on for things. Anyhow, I'd like to work with you on the future with some other episodes, of course. And Incantation played in Middletown, too. Of course, John is going to watch us. I know.
That's the Sportland. If I go to the Sportland really quick.
Yeah, do a Sportland. Why not?
Let me give you the Sportland really quick. December 4th, this was like 1995, 1996 era.
Yeah.
14, Vicious Circle, Incantation, and Grave.
Yeah.
Fear of God supposed to play that tour, but I'll let John McEntee tell you about why that didn't happen.
Okay.
November 3rd, Typo Negative, Bible Black, and Dissolve.
Yeah.
December 13th, MOD and Propane. April 7th, All Out War, Starkweather, Disassociate, and Crisis.
Yeah.
June 5th, 1995, Morpheus, Nevermore, and Death. March 18th, Fear Within, Nuclear Assault. That's Nuclear Assault playing Middletown for the 3rd time.
Yeah.
They played the Class and they played the Black Palace. February 11th, Bulldoze, Madball, Downset, Doggy Dog. Madball did an in-store at Rock Fantasy that day.
Yeah.
And December 26th, Stompbox, Marauder, and Biohazard.
And Madball went on to be the first band to play New York City since the pandemic a few weeks ago, right?
Wow.
Yeah. But that thing, and I almost forgot about Death playing Sportland.
Yeah, that was it. They were having so many shows. They'd have like 3 shows a week, and I think that was their downfall, was that people were only going to one of the 3. And some of the shows didn't get attended so great. You know, if they were spaced out a little better, that place would have went on to be really big.
I know we're almost out of time, but I have a quick Sportland story, and I wish Greg Morris was here to corroborate this. But I had already, by that time, I had already left New York. But my mother was the bookkeeper there, and they were having big money problems. So when they would get a little money in, first person she'd call Mo, and she'd say, "Get down here right now. Get this check and run to the bank and cash it, and I won't write another check until I know you put it in the bank." And that went on regularly.
Yeah. I bought some pinballs from there when they went out of business. I got the Bubble Hockey, I got the Elvira Party Monsters, and a couple other, because I mean, Portland was like a dream. You had metal shows, you had a giant arcade. It was a bowling alley. They gutted it, and then upstairs you had the bar, and there was also an off-track betting all involved. And now it's Middletown Honda. So if anybody is in town, where the hell was this? It's Middletown Honda, and it was next to Walmart, which is now, I don't know what it is. It was Gander Mountain or something for a while.
And do you remember before they put the stage in? Originally, the stage was the boxing ring.
Now the boxing ring was still there. The boxing ring was still there when they were doing shows, because that was off on the side.
That was the original stage, and I think there was some sort of issue with the liquor authority where they had to be separated, and then they built.
If you remember, they had no plans on ever doing rock concerts. It's when they started losing money, and then at first they just wanted regular music. You know how it goes, all these clubs, and then all of a sudden, throw in death metal, throw in what we can throw in. You know, I remember Marilyn was one of the people that ran.
She was one of the owners, I believe. Yeah.
But I wish we could talk for hours in this room, but we have to stop.
We'll all start remembering things that we forgot about.
We're gonna do a part 2, and we'll do it later in the evening, so we can grab like Antonio Ballator and get some of the other guys on next time. I'd love to do a part 2. And we're gonna come back in a week or so. We're doing a show on Orange County Fair Speedway and talking about concerts, and we're gonna have the GM from Orange County Fair Speedway, Brett Hearn, who won the 700 features there. And they've been announcing shows every day now. I mean, they announced like 3 more shows. No metal yet.
Shows are
Well,
back.
actually,
What's up there? Anybody big or?
I'll tell you, but I gotta run this. Yeah, I'll tell you about it. And I'm gonna have to end this episode because we have to get on to something.
End it.
So thanks for watching tonight. I hope you guys enjoyed
Good time,
it.
guys. That was
And
fun.
please
Everybody, I'll see you next time.
hit like and mention some of your Middletown memories. And I thank everyone for giving their time to the channel tonight.
Thank you,
Awesome.
Steve.